Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownstone. I'm your host, Dr. Michele, and you're listening to Numbers Don't Lie, where you learn to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. Thank you guys, first of all, for joining us today, and you are in for a treat. The climate of all things in the United States is changing rapidly, and I think I should do my due diligence to have these conversations with you guys and understand how data and statistics need to be at the heart of these conversations. Like we're past the point of this is how I feel. This is what it is. Like we need to have concrete information and support of what we're saying so we can actually impact change. That is how change happens, not just because we feel like it, but because this is what the data says. This is how we can benefit. Let's now implement. Okay. I think we all on the same page now. So my guest today is going to help us engage in this conversation, especially around higher education. So I'm excited to bring my guest, Cullen, up to the Numbers Don't Lie stage. I met him. He's a part of the Brownstone family. So you've probably heard him if you listen to other podcasts or other news and live streams a part of the Brownstone community, or even if you read the magazine, you have seen his name. You've seen him probably all across all things Brownstone. So let's welcome him to the Numbers Don't Lie stage right now.
Hey,
Colin.
how you doing?
How's it going?
I'm great. Loving it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. I'm always happy to have my Brownstone neighbors come on up and we chat and sit a spell, as Paulette likes to say.
Right? sit us down for a spell.
So tell us a little about yourself and, and I know we're going to get into the work that you do. If you want to tell us how you kind of got into that work too, that'll be cool as well.
Okay. Well, I'm actually the co-owner and founder along with Paulette with Brownstone Worldwide, Brownstone Living Magazine. And we've been doing that for approximately about 12 years now. It's
wow.
Crazy. And the last maybe 2 or 3 years, we actually been ramping it up and, adding great shows like you to our family, to the Brownstone family. So it's been great. Currently in my last semester, my doctorate program, studying higher education and DEI, and I'm just excited to talk to you guys.
Awesome. Now we gonna be talking about some I'll say some serious stuff, y'all. So I mean, we may have some lighthearted moments. I'm naturally funny, so right. It's just gonna come out, but I do just want to let you guys know that this one is taking a more serious note just because of what's been happening in our world today. So if you like to have these conversations, invite your family and friends, anybody that you know. If you've never had these conversations, I challenge you to stick around and listen. You'll be surprised at how close things are to your front door. All right, so I want to first start talking about your DEI work. Like, can we just set the tone? What is it and what is it not? Because I think we hear the word diversity, equity, inclusion, or just diversity in general, and we treat the same way. Well, I'm not saying we. Some people treat the same way when they hear critical race theory. It's just like this buzzword, but it could be negative, even though it's meant to be positive. So could you tell us what it is and what it ain't?
So a lot of times when people see DEI, they really don't really understand the concept of what it is, right? So when you actually break it down, diversity, equity, inclusion. So, diversity is acknowledging and embracing differences in others, right? And in individuals. When you talk about equity, you're talking about ensuring fairness and justice. You talk about inclusion, you're creating a culture where everyone feels a sense of belonging, right? So, and which is when you put it all together, obviously DEI. So what a lot of people fail to realize is that what DEI isn't tokenism. It's including individuals from underrepresented groups merely just for appearance's sake, and that's obviously not what it is. Diversity for the sake of diversity, just saying, hey, we're a group without diversity. Let's hire this one person so we can say we have Black people or, people of color in our group. And it's not a one-time initiative. It's not like at the height of the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter during the pandemic. Everyone was like, oh, we got to do our thing with DEI. Let's let's create this big thing, and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and or it falls on that one black person in that department, and and it's real crazy, and that's what happens at a lot of higher education institutions, a lot of employers in general. But it really, the sad thing about it, the way of the world now is that they're trying to get rid of anything DEI, anything that will help or improve on the fact that everyone is equal, and everyone should have an equal opportunity to do what they need to do. And it's under fire now. They're especially in one of the things that I'm going to be writing about for the Brownstone Living magazine is protecting our black women, because there's not a black women in in, uh, in leadership opportunities in the universities that we've seen a lot on on TV lately. But they want to minimize their excellence, exaggerate their mistakes, and weaponize and politicize their identities in their leadership. And so there's no room for error when it comes to a black woman being in charge. And so those kind of things I'm trying to write about and have people have a conversation about, especially in light of what's been happening.
That's good. Because as you were talking, I almost forgot what happened last year, which was at Harvard and like UNC, about them removing some of their affirmative action initiatives. And like you said, it's that idea that, well, there are black people here and they don't deserve to be here. And it's like, that's so unfortunate you think that, because at some of these elite institutions, if you got up in that school, they're not about to jeopardize their name by letting people in that don't belong. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That do not deserve to be there. So that's the kind of that first, maybe bolder that we're starting to see. And then we saw, was it Dr. Claudine Gay that resigned? And as soon as I saw it, okay, let me say it clearly, because I kind of just rushing. Dr. Claudine Gay, the first black president, and then the first black female president of Harvard University, resigned after 6 months. And it was because of, I'm using air quotes for those that are listening, plagiarism. Now, I'm going to say this before I go into the next point. Now, we know it is well documented, because I was just looking at some research and some literature around black people being denied for loans, whether it's business loans or home loans or whatever. Yep. And I mentioned that because one of the key reasons why the denial rate is higher, because there's more scrutiny. They're looking for every single mistake. That's the same thing with anytime you see a black person that makes it into anywhere. Think about what was that justice that just was a black woman.
Yeah, it's escaping me, but yeah,
I got her face. They did the same thing to her. It's just that higher level of scrutiny when anytime anything black comes around, because they want to find a reason to say no. And so for them to say it's plagiarism, I'm like, now we know if she had any plagiarism on her record, they would have found it. She would have never been a candidate. Never made it to the second or third round of interviews.
It's crazy because it all happened right after they had the hearing in Washington D.C. right, and as soon as they had the hearing, it's like the dominoes start falling, and people tend, when people on the right want to get rid of you, they create this slander campaign against you, and that's what happened with her. They created this slander campaign and said she plagiarized, and to me, you know that's going to happen. You know that you're like I said, there's no room for error,
right?
When it comes to and I'm specifically talking about my black women being in leadership opportunities, because those things. Black men, we have a segment as well, but I really want to take the reins and talk about black women, because a lot of our black women have been doing it for years, especially in higher education, and those are things that we can't lose. They're just trying to destroy that, and they're trying to take it away and whitewash everything, whitewash history, and just make sure that no one sees they wanted everything to be the way it used to be, and it's not going to happen.
That part, because I was having a conversation with as a couple that's have a nonprofit, and they're in education, not necessarily higher education, but just bringing culture infusion into curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And we were literally having this conversation because I want to bring up this article that I found. It's called, save my page, and I'm on page 3. So the article is called Faculty Diversity and Student Success Go Hand in Hand. So why are university faculty so white? And so there is a large body of evidence supporting that when you have diverse faculty, whether this is at the public school level, K through 12, or even at the collegiate level, having diverse faculty is better for student success. I'm going to read this line up here. It says, research shows that faculty diversity supports student success. It's an important piece of the college completion puzzle and can have a significant impact on the sense of belonging, retention rates, and persistence. When Black and Latino college students learn from Black and Latino faculty, they are more likely to complete college. So that itself that's just what it is. But I don't want you listeners to think that it's just only Black and Latino students that benefit. There is research to show that having Black or a diverse faculty benefits every student. And the couple that I was telling you about that bring that cultural immersion into the curriculum, they literally talk about that. When we're having these, these moments with these students, other students want to participate in it, and they're loving it and learning it. And it starts to spread over the whole school. And now everyone is benefiting. And so we start this conversation of, if we know this to be true, if we know diversity is good for the economy, I was literally right. Like, this is what I've been doing over the last few weeks. I feel like we know diversity is good for the economy. We know diversity is good for business. I believe the businesses it was like the women-led businesses outperformed men-led business. I think that came out last year. If we know that's good for the economy, it's good for business, it's good for students, what's with the pushback? Did you know that data-driven organizations were 19 times more profitable? 19. You heard me right. Perhaps you're asking, what is data-driven and how do I become one of those organizations? I'm so glad you asked. I want you to go take a quiz. It's a simple, quick quiz to help you assess if you are in fact one of those organizations. Head over to mogulbeginnings.com/data into dollars quiz now. That's mogulbeginnings.com. You can just go to mogulbeginnings.com and it'll show you the data into dollars quiz. Take it now. You'll see if you're on your way to 19xing your profitability. You're listening to Numbers Don't Lie on KCCR Cityscape. We hope you're enjoying the tunes and all the jams. Make sure you visit our website over at brownstoneworldwide.com to learn about all things Brownstone. You can check out Brownstone Living Magazine and all the great things that we have on the website, as well as the shop. You just got to head over to the website, brownstoneworldwide.com. And I think you hit the nail on the head. People don't want things to change. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I want to give you an example of what you were saying. That's one of the things I actually am writing on in my my dissertation about the sense of belonging in students at PWIs. How do they fare? How do they fare when it comes to harassment and racism, and as far as graduation rates? So, and that pays that actually is a big part of it. A lot of students need that sense of belonging. They feel like they don't have it. They can't finish. They don't feel like they don't see that faculty member that looks like them, and allows them to feel more comfortable in what they're studying. But there's an example of when people, and I'm gonna give a broader example. Let's say, for instance, you travel, right? If you travel to other countries and you come back to America, your ideas change. The things, the way you used to think, it alters because you've broadened your perspective.
Yeah.
You're not in that one little bubble that you're in that you don't want to change because you think everyone's so different and you're just better than everyone. But once you go outside your bubble and see how similar everyone is, and everyone is the same, everyone's like you. And once you come back, you realize, my Black friend is a great person, and the person, or my Latina friend is a great person, and we're just alike. Our lives are mirroring each other, and because of racism in America or harassment in America, it's just blinding people to the fact that they don't want everything to change because they want things to be like the way they used to be. And that's unfortunate because as a nation, if we don't get rid of this, we're signing our own death warrant as a nation because diversity is there, it's here to stay. In 20 years, we're not going to be the minority anymore. And I think that's scary for a lot of people. And a lot of people just don't want that to happen. They want to keep that power the way they have had it. And like I said, by whitewashing history, if you whitewash history, it could happen again. If you don't teach your children what happened in the past, and this is what we shouldn't do, what makes you think it's not going to happen again? And that's the problem.
Right.
And when we have people like you, for instance, that's you at the top of her lungs, this is what the data proves this. so we need to focus on doing what we need to do to make this country a success and make it's supposed to be the greatest country in the world. Let's make it the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very unfortunate. I was just watching, I was like on social media last night, and it was a video of a man. It was like he literally didn't believe anything. There was like, it didn't matter if it was been put in his face, video footage, data, it didn't matter. He had his own belief about what things were, what the facts were. I'm like, he wasn't even there. Didn't even see the video. He did not believe that George Floyd was murdered by that police officer. He didn't watch the video. He just didn't believe that it happened. And so what do you say? Like, how do we frame those conversations to people that really are just stuck and this is what I believe, even if what they believe is contrary to what the facts and reality are? Because we see this happening when people vote against their own interests year after year.
See, that's the unfortunate thing, is that once someone has something in their head, it's hard for them to change their focus, and it's very frustrating, especially the last 3 years, when you see everything that's happened and you still want to go down that same road, even though that road is rocky, even though that road has potholes. You don't care. You don't believe there's a pothole up there, even though you ran over it yesterday. And a lot of people just live in that fantasy world that it's not going to affect them. And it will. And I think that's the problem. It's, you're living in this perfect little world where you have all this privilege, and you don't think anything that's happening on TV is real. It's not happening because it's not happening to you. It's not happening in your face.
Right.
So in sense, you're not believing it. And so you're just going on the aspects of, I'm just going to do what this person says that's going on because that's how I see it in my little bubble. If you don't broaden your horizon, open up, read a book, stop watching so much, TV that's gonna, it's, to me, when you're speaking with someone and that the person doesn't want to learn, that person doesn't want to change their mind. To me, I love having conversations. The reason, like I started Cullen's Corner years ago before we even did Brownstone. The reason I started Cullen's Corner was to give other people with other thought processes an avenue to speak. Even though I don't believe, I may not believe what you're saying, I'm interested in what you're saying and why you believe it. Even it might be something that you say that I might say, what, that makes sense. But it's a back and forth. It's a conversation, not an argument. And that's the problem nowadays, is that everyone wants to argue. No one wants to listen and have a conversation, but everyone wants to argue. I'm not trying to change your mind. I want the respect of you to listen to what I'm saying, and let's have a conversation about this. And at the end of the day, I may think, you had some good points. That's what conversation is about. That's how you grow. But if you're unwilling to grow in a conversation, what are we doing?
Yeah. Just playing.
Yeah.
And so as I'm listening to you and thinking about the conversation I had with those, the couple in a nonprofit, and just the way of the world about what we know to be true and then what we choose to believe, this is just my opinion, and I would love to hear yours.
Mhm.
When people reject what is true, I really do, especially when we talk about racism in our history here in the United States. And you talked about change, like how fast things are changing. Well, it's not fast, but like it is still kind of fast. We think about the span of history.
Right.
You know, how the world is becoming, the United States and the world, well, the world is already majority brown, but the United States is becoming less white, is becoming more diverse. There are more biracial adults, you know what I mean? Children, adults. And that is what is kind of sparking a lot of this stuff of that trying to hold on to control. And me, I feel it's driven by fear. And what I said yesterday as I was talking to them was, it's so interesting that when we think about fear the unknown, or fear of what might happen if things change, what if we do have more Black faculty, we have more Black presidents? Because I was at a graduation. My friend graduated from University of South Carolina, and I helped her with her data analysis like for over a year. Okay, so that was our degree. So we was it, and they had, and I think I have it right here. It's the commencement book. I have it right here, the commencement book, and it shows you the at the university, all of the past presidents. There is not one woman, and I do not believe it's a person of color at all. And this is quite a few. I didn't count it, but it looks like over 20, because it spans back to 1804. So when we think about why we don't want to have people of color in those positions, because there was actually a candidate at the University of South Carolina a few years ago, and I think a lot of people wanted him to get it. It seemed he was a really great candidate, and they let this other man in that literally was not qualified. Right. Like everyone was like, "What?" This man ended up I think resigning. I can't remember what it was, scandal that came out. It was something that came out that was like a big deal. If I remember it, I'll try to put the article, link the article. And then that girl, I'm sorry, not girl. I'm so used to talk to my friends. I'm sorry. The previous president before him had to come back as the interim president. Because I came back to graduation. I was like, wait, hold on. Why is he back? So anyway, I say that to say we have this long history of white men being in charge, and we see the resistance because it's fear of what may happen. But there's fear is always attached to that. Fear of the unknown is always attached to the negative. And I'm like, but in the same way that something bad, and I'm using air quotes for those that are listening, the same way that it's because something bad can happen, couldn't something good happen and something beautiful? Like, why do you think when we talk about that fear of change and people don't want to change, they don't want to lose power, why don't we ever think about all the good things that can happen?
You know what? And that's the process that people that have an open mind, like yourself. They have an open mind, so obviously you're going to see bad things are always going to happen. But it's the yin and yang. It's always going to be bad and good. I was having a conversation with a gentleman a couple of years ago when I started my program, and I asked him a similar question. It's a white guy, and I love when I talk to people that are so open and they're willing to take the bullet and say, you know what, we're wrong. I look through history and we've done so many bad things for money, for power. It's just to step on the necks of other cultures. And he said that one of the main things that people are afraid of, they see what happens to a minority now. And once they become a minority, they don't want it to happen to them. They lose the power and they become a minority, and then it's switched. And they think because say a minority is in power now, they're going to do the same things that they have done to them. That's their mindset. Yeah, we don't think like that.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember having a conversation. So I'm really glad you brought that up for the listeners.
Yeah, we don't think like that. We think of, like you said, there's so many good things that we can do. So we're thinking about the positive and the good. They're thinking about all the things we're doing so wrong to them. They're gonna do it to us, and we got to keep our power. We got to keep our make America great again. All this crap that comes up. Those are the things that people are saying and thinking in their head, and the people that are in power are telling people. It doesn't matter if they're in poverty. It doesn't matter if they're they have they live in a minority poor neighborhood. They just feel that they're still better than you because they're white and they have white privilege, not thinking that you're not any better than this other person that's poor that's right next to you. You should be banding together,
right,
to rise up so we can have a better community, a better society. But
and
they're not,
that did happen.
yeah.
That like early history. I'm not a big historian, but I remember what I want to remember. But that did happen. Was it during the Reconstruction? So like when the slaves were first free, and they did band together with the poor whites.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, they, getting stuff popping. They want change, because a lot of stuff, what I've come to realize, is not just racism, especially here in the United States. It's literally not just racism. It's classism. I'm assuming it's capitalism.
Yes, capitalism.
It's capitalism. Exactly. And so that's what slavery was. Capitalism. Like, well, if I get free labor, then I can increase my bottom line. Like, I'm more profitable. That's straight up capitalism. Now, unfortunately, racism mixed in it because they had to justify treating people as subhumane in order to do it. That's where that racism kind of came out. But it did happen where they were banded together. But then the more upper class white people was like, oh, we got to break this up, or our livelihood has been threatened. And that's when they started to pit more that racism. Well, you're white. At least you're not them. You're not black. And started to make infuse that air of superiority. So it's just like, well, you're not. At least you're white. You can do this. Well, the reason why you don't have is because they're taking your jobs. And so that seed was planted, and unfortunately, we allowed it to grow. And we see what we see now. Like, we have, like you said, poor whites that are constantly voting against their own interests. I'm just like, this literally does not benefit you. I remember, I'm in public health. So I remember when the Affordable Care Act came out, they put Obamacare on it on purpose because they knew they were going to push back. But I was like, literally, this is a life-saving policy. And it was so unfortunate. Listen, I go on and on. Last thing I want to know is, how did you find yourself in this work? Like, what was the thing that said, you know what, this is the work that I want to do?
Right. So I've always been in education. My father was in education for 40 years, and he's always preached that you want to be able to teach others and, about being together and community and all that, and the things that I see in higher education, even though there's so much politics in it, and it's still, there's not enough of us in higher education, in the leadership roles in higher education, to make things happen or matter. I think that's where I come in. I want to be able to get to those roles where I can help others and bring them up, so they won't feel like, it's just 20 of those white men that they're in charge, and maybe my name can be on there. Because I always tell some of my when we have I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi, and we have our we do things in the community especially with the young men, and we tell young men, when we tell them what degrees we have and what we do in the community, the reason why we do it, because we want you to see yourself in us.
Right.
And if you see yourself in us and we're in that position, that means you can get that position.
Absolutely.
So if you want to, don't worry about, what other people are saying about you. If you want to be president of a university, be a president of a university. Think, the sky's the limit. And that's the thing that a lot of people, when we're talking about, when slavery ended, and the white people and the poor whites and the slaves were banding together, the same policy is in place right now. But you're just replacing the slaves with immigrants, and they're saying they're taking your jobs. What we're going to do? It's history repeating itself, and it's putting that in their mindset, even though they're not doing anything. Like you say, it's against the better interests. Yeah, and it's like you're eating yourself from the inside. What are you doing? Let's band together. And so I want to make my mark, even though your mark, you want to say that you're making a mark, even you don't want to believe that your mark is not making a difference. Right? Because if you believe that, then it's going to stop you from doing it.
Yeah.
If you have more people making that mark's going to grow. And so I want my young men and my young Black women and men to understand we need you. We need you to
Yes.
take these positions and take these stands on. Don't allow these things to just run you over, because
Absolutely.
it's going to happen if you allow it.
Absolutely. This was such a good dialogue. I'm so glad that I had you on. We may have to continue this at another time, maybe do like a panel or something. But could you tell the people where to find you?
Definitely. You go to www.brownstoneworldwide.com. You can email me at cullen@brownstoneworldwide.com. And, come to our website, come to our magazine. I'll be sharing out. We just had a new magazine that came out this month. And so Brownstone Living Magazine is out there. So, definitely, we're doing some great things. We got some great shows like your show. That's just amazing, and hopefully we can add to it this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cullen, and thank you, listeners, for joining me for another episode of Numbers Don't Lie. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Remember to follow me at Mogul Beginnings on all things social media. That's MOGUL, Mogul Beginnings. Checking me out on Brownstone as well. I had an article in Brownstone Living Magazine too. So head on over to brownstoneworldwide.com to find out what's happening with Numbers Don't Lie and Dr. Michele.